Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my performance review of the Air Jordan 38 Low. And of course this is just the low version of the Air Jordan 38, but it's also way cheaper. It's a full $25 cheaper than the actual Jordan 38, which retails for 200 bucks. But the Jordan 38 has been out for a while now and there are some sales, so I guess it is the same price right now, but retail price it is $25 cheaper. So if you guys don't want to cop either of those shoes, I try to leave the link in the description box. But let's get it started right off with the Tracciones, and the traction is identical to the regular Jordan 38 and it performs pretty much exactly the same. And in this colorway I have a fully translucent outsole, and the traction is pretty dang good. You know, it's not top tier at all, but if you're playing on a clean court and then you break it in, it does have a very solid bite, right? So you're gonna have a pretty good time if you are playing on a clean court. Again, it's not top tier. You know, a top tier traction would be like the Jaw 1, the AR1, the AE1. I guess all the A, like all the shoes that start with A, or the shoes that have two letters, I don't know. Also the AG4, you know. This shoe is not as good as those. It doesn't have as hard of a stop on a clean court, but it's still nice. It's still a solid bite for the Jordan 38 and also the Jordan 38 Low. So on a clean court, you should be fine. On a dusty court, however, it does pick up a good amount of dust, and it is affected by dust a little bit more than most shoes, you know. It's just from my experience. If I am playing on a pretty dusty court, I am going to slide around a little bit. It's not the easiest wipe either. You know, it's not super hard to wipe off, but you know, I have to kind of get in there a little bit, and once you do, you have just like a couple good stops and then picks up dust pretty quickly again. So dust performance isn't the best on this colorway. Hopefully, you know, if there is a solid rubber outsole kind of colorway, it is better, but I haven't tried it, so I only have the two translucent outsole colorways. So yeah, dust performance isn't the best, and as far as durability goes, durability seems like it'll be okay. You know, the rubber is very hard. The grooves are also thick and also deep, and you have a good amount of surface area where there is rubber, but then here on the sides there is no rubber, which is weird. Why would you do that? Especially right here, that's where your kind of like the ball of your foot is, you know what I mean? And the ball of your foot, you put a lot of pressure, so I don't know why they kept this open. That just doesn't make sense to me from a design standpoint. But anyways, the traction is pretty good, just exactly like the Jordan 38. So there's that. Moving on to the heel to toe transition, also exactly like the Jordan 38, right? So here in the heel we have a nice rounded shape, however it is really stiff. There's no compression at all here from the actual like midsole. You know, this rubber is actually really tough. And then in the forefoot, coming into the forefoot, we have a nice rounded shape and a lot of forefoot flex. Look at that. So extremely flexible forefoot, which I do like, but also has a nice little rebound back. It's not super springy, especially comparing to like the GT Cut 3 and stuff like that. So feels exactly the same as your regular Jordan 38. Pretty dang smooth. It's a little bit clunky in the heel and very flexible here in the forefoot, right? And now moving on to the cushioning setup, of course we have full length Zoom Strobel, and of course we have Formula 23 and all that, but that doesn't really matter because you don't really feel it all too much, and also because of all the caging, there's no compression from the actual midsole either. So the only thing you really feel is a full length Zoom Strobel unit, right? And of course, right underneath your foot, there's a lot of compression, there's a lot of bounce back, which I do like at times. Sometimes though, it is a little bit too much for me, and I don't like it, you know, especially if I want something a little bit more responsive, you know what I mean? So if I want something a little bit more responsive and a little bit lower to the ground, this is not my ideal setup, but for the most part, most days I do like the bounciness and also really good impact protection of this setup, right? Like for me, in my personal opinion, like the perfect cushioning setup right now for me is a Lyrin 4. The Lyrin 4 with a full length boom cushioning setup and that kind of like foam strobe board. I don't know what it is, but it has a really nice bounce, but it's not super duper bouncy like the full length Zoom Strobel unit found in the Jordan 38 and also the 38 Low. So anyways, yeah, it's the exact same unit that's in the Jordan 38 and a lot of other shoes that Nike has to offer as well. So yeah, if you like full length Zoom Strobel, of course you're gonna like it here in the 38 Low, right? And now moving on to the upper. So the upper is of course where it changes a little bit, but it's not that big of a difference either, you know what I mean? So we have this kind of like synthetic material, right? It's like a synthetic suede, I feel like, or nubuck. It just has this kind of like soft texture to it, but of course it is synthetic. And then it's kind of like stitched to this leather upper right here. And this also leather material is synthetic as well. It's a pretty cheap feeling material, but here in the toe box, it's not super thin, but it doesn't feel like very bulky either, which I do appreciate. It also feels very, very supportive and it conforms to my foot very well. I'm not really mad at the toe box material at all. And of course, we have these threads right here on the lateral and medial sides of the shoe. And it's pretty much the exact same in the regular Jordan 38 with these threads as well. And then underneath that, we have this underlying material, right? As you guys can see, my finger through it. Underlaying that is another material that's pretty much the entire tongue. And this tongue is a half booty construction tongue, of course, and so it is double layered here on the lateral side as well. The tongue is pretty well padded. You know, it's very similar. It's actually identical to the regular Jordan 38. And also another thing that I kind of like better in the 38 low is the kind of lining, right? So we have this kind of like polyester material and also has this cross stitching, right? This diagonal cross stitching, which makes it feel pretty nice in quality. You know, it looks great as well. The regular Jordan 38 does not have it, and it does feel pretty nice and cozy. Like this foam it feels like a memory foam, you know, so that feels nice in the back of the shoe as well. And also here in the heel, we have this like synthetic material with these kind of like embroidered patterns, very similar to the regular Jordan 38 as well. So yeah, not that big of a difference. Of course, I feel like the material quality in the Jordan 38 is better if you want like the nicer leather material, you know what I mean? But on foot, it feels very similar, you know. I would say, you know, it is a little bit thicker here in the toe box for the 38 low because we do have another material on top of your toe box. But other than that, it's a very, very similar feeling upper on foot. So there's that. Moving on to the fit. So I went up half a size and the shoe fits me pretty dang well, but there is a little bit of length, right? So if you want a very, very snug fit lengthwise and go true to size, but just be careful on that because I feel like the toe space here is very, very snug, and also widthwise it is pretty narrow as well. So if you do go true to size, it'll be a very, very snug fit, but lengthwise you should be fine, right? But for me, going up half a size, I was still good to go. I didn't really mind the length all too much because of the tighter toe box, so it wasn't a huge deal for me. But I guess if you have a very skinny foot, you should be okay going true to size. But for most people, going up half a size, if you want a little bit more room, you should be okay as well. And if you have a very wide foot, probably go up a full size, right? So there is the fit there. Moving on to support and lockdown, also I had no problems at all, right? So for lateral containment, I have a lot of caging, right? A lot of lateral counters. You can see this plastic here coming up. It's where kind of like your pinky toes, you know, so that's got you covered here in the forefoot. And also I guess here in the midfoot, we have this plastic part coming up a little bit as well. And also cages the cushion. And here in the heel, we have a very stiff and prominent internal TPU heel counter. So lateral containment, I was good to go, and no matter how big you are, you should be fine. Your foot is probably not going to come out of the footbed. And also lateral stability was good. You know, it's a pretty wide base right here, right? It does protrude out a good amount as well. So yeah, not a crazy outrigger or anything, but it's still protruding out a good amount. So I didn't really have any issues with lateral instability, and also didn't have any issues with heel slippage or anything like that. And my foot felt locked into the shoe. Once I tightened it up, I was good to go. So overall, support and lockdown was very good. And even if you're a bigger dude and you need a lot of support, you should be fine in the Jordan 38 low. And now moving on to the weight of the shoe. This shoe's probably around average, right? 12-13 ounces, I feel like. Yeah, 12.75 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 12.85 ounces. So that's pretty much average weight. The average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. So it's a little bit heavier than average, but not that big of a deal. And when you're playing it, you feel pretty fast, especially if you're playing on a clean court, as I did. So when I was playing on a clean court, I did feel pretty dang quick, and I did like the bounciness of the Zoom Strobel unit. However, you know, on a dusty setting, not the best, of course, especially since I was playing with shoes. Like in my rotation, I was playing with this shoe. I was playing with the AC12s, the AE1 shoes that have really, really good traction. I feel like the Jordan 38 low didn't really compare very well to those shoes. Not saying that dust performance was terrible, it's just not as good as those other shoes. So I just found myself wanting to play in the other shoes as opposed to the Jordan 38 low. But also it's a pretty minimal feeling shoe. I mean, the upper is not super minimal, you know, but it does feel pretty thin, but also supportive, and nothing's really protruding out like crazy, so it's not really bulky at all. So there is the weight there. Moving on to the ventilation. Ventilation is not amazing, right? So you would think because of this, there's a lot of airflow, but like I said, there is an underlying material, so because of that, there's not that much airflow actually. Also, I guess through the tongue here, we do have these triangle cutouts, which is good for ventilation, but other than that, not a whole lot of airflow. So this shoe isn't super hot, but also not very cool. So there's that. Moving on to the aesthetics, it looks great. This colorway looks great, and I definitely feel like this shoe aesthetically looks a lot better than the regular Jordan 38. So tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, the Jordan 38 low is the low version of the Jordan 38. which is not surprising, you know? Remember when shoes used to be a little bit different from the high to the low? They would make it pretty different as far as the overall shoe goes. But also there's a lot of shoes where the high and low is exactly the same. They just cut off kind of like the high cut part. And that's pretty much what they did here in the Jordan 38 and the Jordan 38 low. So yeah, pretty much the same exact traction, pretty much the same exact cushioning setup, support. Material of course is worse quality, but it feels still pretty nice on foot. So yeah, if you want to save money, if you want to save the $25, right, this is still a really good option. And also if you want a low top version, this is also a great option as well. Still 175 bucks is a little bit expensive, but the Jordan 38 low is a nice performer. So of course, you know, for most people, if you're a guard or even a bigger dude, I feel like this is a great option for you guys. So it's a great shoe for most people. Just two things, of course, the full-length zoom strobe unit is very bouncy, and also the traction on dust isn't the best, right? But that about wraps up my performance review of the Jordan 38 low. Again, if you guys don't want to copy, try to leave the link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.